Peoples are not all regarded as holding equal moral worth. As much as we like to claim that this is the case, there can be no doubt that the suffering of some peoples is tolerated and accepted to a far greater extent than the suffering of others. A system of cyclical brutality has made this so. One cannot in good faith assert that the sufferings of Americans, Germans, Swedes, Russians, Afghans, Nigerians, Indians, and Haitians are all regarded equally. The sufferings of some people are more easily tolerated and accepted than the sufferings of others. This is not to call such a state of affairs justified. It is very far from it. Such a state of affairs is deeply undesirable. But this state of affairs is the unpleasant reality, and the sooner we acknowledge that fact, the sooner we can do something about it. Why is it that the suffering of some people is regarded as more acceptable and tolerable than the suffering of others? The reasons are likely numerous. Here I intend on offering one. Cyclical brutality. The role of cruelty and brutality is a force that strips people of moral worth. The more a people are subjected to cruelty and brutality, the more normalized that cruelty and brutality becomes, the more we are desensitized to it. This makes further cruelty easier and easier. This makes further brutality increasingly acceptable and tolerable. One cruelty paves the road for 100 more. One brutality lays the groundwork for 1,000,000. Cruelty and brutality strip people of moral worth, and in doing so perpetuate themselves endlessly. The more a people suffer, the more normalized that suffering becomes, and the more desensitized we are to it. It becomes more tolerable and acceptable. It becomes easier to overlook and ignore. And so the cycle perpetuates itself. Cruelty normalizes itself and desensitizes us, paving the way for more cruelty. The sufferings of some peoples are normalized, and we are desensitized to them. We regard those people as holding lower moral worth, and are more tolerant and accepting of their suffering. And so we allow it to continue, and their moral worth only continues to decrease. Their suffering becomes more and more normalized. We become more and more desensitized. What someone's moral worth should be, and what someone's moral worth is widely regarded as, are wildly different things. We would be wise to note the massive difference between the moral worth people should be assigned and that which they are assigned. We would be wise to note the cycle that is responsible for that difference. The cycle of cruelty and brutality. The cycle of suffering. The cycle must be broken. We must break the cycle of cruelty and brutality. We must put an end to the normalization of such things. We must put an end to our desensitization to such things. We must put an end to the wildly unequal extents of acceptance and tolerance for cruelty and brutality. Doing so is with little doubt a rational moral imperative.